Gurubhyo Namah Hari Om. So we will start by inviting our dignitaries to the stage. Shri A.S. Kiran Kumar, sir, please. Dr. Pratosh, please. So we are grateful to our chief guest, Shri A.S. Kiran Kumar, for gracing this occasion. Actually, no words will do justice to his accomplishments, but I'll try to cite a few which I'm aware of. So he is one of the eminent space scientists produced by this country and has brought many laurels to this country over the last few decades. He was awarded the Padma Shri by the Government of India in 2014 for his stellar contributions to the Indian space program and also obviously developing the Indian economy through that. In 2015, he assumed the chairmanship of the ISRO, and during his tenure, a lot of the groundwork, what we see today, the fruits which are coming out, the Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan programs, he was instrumental in developing the scientific foundation for these programs under his tenure. And since then, he has continued to serve the country as an advisor to all the ongoing space programs. He has won several awards, obviously the prestigious Padma Shri. Over the last few years, he has been awarded from NASA a Lifetime Achievement Award from the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. He was recently given an award in Caltech, Pasadena, an international award. So he continues to inspire many generations of youngsters to take up space engineering and continues to advise the country on the critical programs. So we thank you, sir, for coming in and making your time. Our guest of honor is Dr. Pratosh, again a very accomplished professional, a researcher, research scientist. Dr. Pratosh earned his PhD in 2015 in temporal analytics and since then worked in the industry and has been very, very productive with over 15 patents in the area of healthcare analytics, has worked with multiple startups, including Xerox India and other startups to guide them with their research, has been prolific even in his academic research, had a stint in the IIT Delhi up to from 2017 to 21, where he served as assistant professor, and since then has relocated to Bangalore and today is assistant professor EECS at Indian Institute of Science. It would, last but not least, Dr. Pratosh is very unique in the way that he blends basically the modern science and also has deep interest in our Shastras. He is formally trained in our Shastras for close to 20 years and has undergone rigorous training. Today actually teaches students. He's a unique personality in the sense he teaches people, he's teaching image processing, he's guiding research around that. He's also teaching our Shastras. So we are delighted to have Dr. Pratosh. At the outset, I would like to invite Dr. Manjunath to deliver the Veda Gosha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Padavakya Pramanagnam Madbharatam Taponidhim Govinda Panditam Vande Govinda Padatallajam Om Ganana Antva Ganapating Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrunvannutibissi dasadanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Astu tejasvino Astu cha Brahma varchasam Sampadaye mahi saha viryam krishimahi Stambham nirbhidya niryan nikhila jagadaghakshalanayavatirnam Purnam swarnopamanadyuti vihatatamasто mamastari vargam Swasti Shri Matsamasta Shruti Gadita Maho Tanmaho no Vidadhyat पञ्चास्यं कन्धराया उपरि परिगतं देववृन्दैरमन्दैः उग्रं व्यग्रेन्द्रलोकाभयदमरिदराद्यायुधोदग्रबाहुं रुद्रं रुद्रेन्द्रमुख्यामरगणविनुतं भद्रविज्ञानमुद्रं वीरं वीरासनस्थं भवभयहरणं दारणं दारुणानां रूक्षं त्र्यक्षं महेक्षं क्षपितदुरितमक्षोभणीयं दिदृक्षे ज्वलत्कनकपिञ्जरं कलितभक्तहृत्पञ्जरं चिरं मुदितनिर्जरं श्रुतिमहाटवीकुञ्जरं भजे भुवनबन्धुरं हृदि निजेन्दिरामन्दिरं परं तुरगकन्धरं दरधरं नृकण्ठीरवं जगन्निधानपिठरं नृहरेर्जठरं नुमः यन्नाभिकुहरोद्भूतस्तनयो हंसवाहनः यदुत्सङ्गा जगदुदयभङ्गाब्दितनया यदुद्गीता गीता विषयविषभीतावनकरी सुधीमुद्रा भद्रा दुरितगणविद्रावणकरी नमस्तस्मै कस्मै चिदमरपुषे सिंहवपुषे नरकेसरिणं धिकृतहिरण्यकरिणं च सूकरिणं तोषितबुधजनहरिणं वरिणं दरिणं स्मरामि मन्दरिणम् इमामाचार्यगोविन्दे सन्निधाय हरिस्तवं रचयामास तुः प्रेम्णा प्राणनारायणौ स्वयम् ॐ अग्निमीळे पुरोहितं यज्ञस्य देवमृत्विजम् होतारं रत्नधातमम् अग्निः पूर्वे ऋषिभिरीड्यो नूतनैरुता स देवान् एह वक्षति अग्निना रगिमश्नवत्पोषमेव दिवे दिवे यशसं वीरवत्तमम् अग्नेयं यज्ञमध्वरं विश्वतः परिभूरसि स यद्देवेषु गच्छति अग्निर्होता कविक्रतुः सत्यश्चित्रश्रवस्तमः देवो देवेभिरागमत् यदङ्गदाशुषे त्वमग्ने भद्रं करिष्यसि तवेत्तत्सत्यमङ्गिरः उपत्वाग्ने दिवे दिवे दोषावस्तर्धिया वयं नमो भरन्तयेमसि राजन्तमध्वराणां गोपामृतस्य दीदिविं वर्धमानं स्वेदमे स नः पितेव सूनविघ्ने सूपायनो भव स च स्वानस्वस्तये ॐ इषेत्वोर्जेत्वा भायवस्तोपायवस्तर्देवो वः सविता प्रार्पयतु श्रेष्ठतमाय कर्मण आप्यायध्वमग्निया देवभागमूर्जस्वती पयस्वती प्रजापतिरनमीवा अयक्ष्मामावस्तेन ईशत माघशंसो रुद्रस्य कीर्तिः परिवो वृणक्तध्रुवा अस्मिन् गोपतौ स्यात भक्ष्वीर्यजमानस्य पशून् पाहि। हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।
I'd like to thank Dr. Manjunath for the Vedic recital. It was beyond words and amazing experience, sir. Thank you. Now we would like to invite the dignitaries to light the Deepa. Like to invite the author, Professor Mukund, to say a few words about the book. He is a founding trustee, Tara Prakashna, as all of you know, Professor Emeritus, Rochester Institute of Technology, and best-selling author of The 10 Gunas, published by Rupa Publications. Professor Mukund.
अनंत गुणपूर्णाय दोषदूराय विष्णवे नमः श्री प्राणनाथाय भक्तादिष्टप्रदायिने श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. At the outset, I would like to welcome both Shri Kiran Kumar and Dr. Pratosh. Many of you, I have some of my classmates here, and most of you know that Shri Kiran Kumar and some of us, including me, we met when we were only 15 years old in National College of Basangudi. So it's pretty amazing that that friendship has carried on for many, many decades, and I see some other people there I've known for even longer. Right? So Kiran, thank you very much for accepting this invitation and sparing your time. Dr. Pratosh, I met him. I was giving a talk in Mysore on science and spirituality, and he just showed up. A young man, after my talk, he came and spoke to me, and I was immediately very impressed by two things. One is his depth of thought, and the second thing is his humility. He's a very humble man. You won't know talking to him that he's really an expert in two very different domains. One is in engineering, and the other one is in the Shastras, and he is an expert on both things. So, Pratosh, thank you so much for coming here. Also, we had one more guest. Apparently, he got stuck somewhere, so hopefully he'll still show up. That's Shri Ramakrishna, who is the editor of Deccan Herald. So he may still come, and I'm not quite sure what the situation is. So, and also welcome to all of you for coming here for this occasion. Actually, I would like to say thanks to a few people, because I come stand here and I talk, and all of us know that everything is a teamwork, right? Nothing happens by any one individual, even though the light sometimes shines on one individual. And so as far as this book is concerned, one person who is not here, who's out of town, when you actually see the book, you'll see some beautiful, beautiful art in that thing, including the front cover page. All of that, all the artwork in the book was done by Ganjifa Raghupati Bhatt. Some of you may know him, very, very well-known artist. And I was very surprised that when I asked him, he immediately said, yes, I'll do it for you. I asked him for a few line drawings. He said, not only those, I'll actually give you art for the front cover also. And very grateful to him, because he's a very senior artist, and that was good. And there's a lady sitting right there. She's very shy. She doesn't, that's Pooja sitting there, Shyam's wife. And she came forward at the very beginning. This book started about a year ago, 8-9 months ago, something like that. So she's the one who, not only I like to write by hand, because my mind runs faster than my fingers on the laptop. So I'm an old-fashioned guy, so I write by hand. And she not only did all the typing, but did the editing and gave some good feedback also. Pooja, thank you very much. So let me talk about the book and why. It's not that I have some weird kick I get from writing books or something like that. Actually, I'm a very lazy person by nature. But the thing is that what I noticed is that over the last 20 to 30 years, I would say, since the time, by the way, Dr. Manjunath, who did the Veda Gosha, I have to digress just a second and say something about that. Sometimes people lament, even in conversations when we talk, people say, oh, this Vedika, the knowledge is going away and all these things. All you have to do is listen to Dr. Manjunath chant the Vedas, and you say, no, it's in good hands. So I think that, and professionally he's a doctor, he's a professor and Ayurveda doctor, and very accomplished professional as well. And it's very, it really makes you feel good when you see that people who are very accomplished and following a particular professional path also simultaneously actually spend time learning the Shastras or the Vedas and doing something about it, right? So it is possible, it's definitely possible, and people like that, show you that it's indeed a possibility. And not only that, the two things are not orthogonal to each other. My own personal anubhava is that since I met our Guru, Dr. Bananja Govindacharya, I should mention his name because I owe everything to him. And I realized that the two are not at all orthogonal. I mean, for a long time I used to think that these two things are orthogonal. Then I realized that it's the same science, it's just that the Western science, just yesterday Pratash and I were talking about it, and even you can see Shri Kiran Kumar is nodding his head. You ask any scientist, they'll tell you that, people have actually spent a lot of time in depth in science. They'll tell you that the Western science is the science of matter and the Vedic science is the science of energy. And matter and energy are not the same, but there are many, many commonalities. And if you can map one thing to the other, you can actually accomplish a lot in both of these domains, because those two things do work together to create the universe, right? So let me come to the book finally. So I noticed that people were doing things very mechanically and without actually thinking. You notice, you look at this flowers here, right? For decoration they put it up, that's fine. But you cannot just, even if you look at the design that Bharati did over here, the thing is that if you look at those colors, there is red and there is yellow. This is the color of Arishana and Kunkuma in Kannada, or Haldi and Kumkum in Hindi. And there is a thought behind it. There's a thought behind it. It's not random. It's not like you just pick up some colors that look good, right? The red happens to be color of Kama, desire, right? And yellow is a purification color, energy. So that's why, at the beginning of puja, a lot of times you say Haridra Churnam Samarpayami Kumkum Churn. So you do Haldi or Arshna and then Kumkum and then Sindura also, right? So the thing is, so a lot of times when we were told, when I was a kid, I just grew up about a kilometer from here. This is my home turf. And when I was growing up in a middle class Brahmin family, we did many things. We did many things for which nobody told me why we were doing it, right, at all. And I didn't ask every time either, so part of the problem was mine. But even if I asked, nobody could tell me what we were doing. So the action was there. The action was there. Sometimes the speech, like the mantras and all that, were there, but they were not even perfect, because we didn't even know the language, right? So without knowing Sanskrit, you cannot chant things properly. And definitely the third part, in everything, the very famous thing which most people say, Kayena vacha manasendriya buddhyatmanava, commonly people say prakate svabhavat karome yadat sakalam parasmai narayana iti samarpaya. This is something that people say all the time, right? But if you look at those first three parts, Kayena vacha manasendriya buddhyatmana, that's further, right? But right at the beginning, there is kaya, there is vacha, there is manasa. So there is action, there is speech, and there is thought, right? So when we talk about that, anything that we do, it doesn't matter what we do. Like if I sit down and say, oh, I want to write a book. The question is this, right? If somebody comes and asks me, why are you writing this book? What's the purpose? Why are you doing that? Are you doing it because you want to make money? Or you're doing it because you want to be famous? What's the purpose? Most of us, in most things, we would give a very noble intention. In everything, we give a very, no, I am doing it for good of society or whatever, right? But what is the real intent, right? And a lot of times we think that there is no connection between the two. But in reality, when you look at karma, all three things not only play a role, but the intention, the ichha, the desire of the outcome, right? What is it that you want? And that intention actually will drive the outcome more than the action. Otherwise, when you think about it, right? Suppose I do something, whatever it is, I do something, right? Like I wrote a book. Okay, fine. The question is, was that writing in my control? The answer is no. There's so many 1,001 things that can prevent me from doing that, right? So here's my question. If I'm held responsible, like I say, something I'm saying, karma panda, this way. Actually, this has gone so far. I hear this all the time in the US also. Except they cannot say karma, they say karma. But whatever, And the thing is that, is it a result of something you did? Most of us think that I did something, so I'm paying a price for that, or I'm being rewarded for that. It doesn't have to be bad, it can be good reward also, right? But if you don't have control, how can I be given responsibility for something without giving me control? Right? That doesn't make sense. If there is somebody up there listening to me, you cannot say, oh, I will reward you for doing something, except I will decide whether you can do it or not. That makes no sense at all. So when you look at this thing, even speech, so many times we want to say something, we end up saying something else, isn't it? So many times, even in normal activity that happens. But there is one thing, that intention of why I'm doing that is mine and mine alone. We think that nobody can see that. We like I said, we say very noble things. We say, no, I'm a good person, I'm doing. Thinking that nobody can actually come and look inside me and see what my real intention is. But there is a universal intelligence. Many of you are Kannada people, local people, I know, but there may be a few people who don't know Kannada. But if you look at the story of Kanakadasa, right? Most of us have heard that story. His guru gives a banana to all his students and says, go hide somewhere and eat it. When nobody should watch. Nobody should watch that, right? And all the smart guys go running and hiding somewhere. Kanaka doesn't go anywhere. He's just sitting right there in front of the guru. He doesn't even move. He doesn't even touch the banana. So all these people come back and they ridicule him and say, oh, look at this stupid fellow, he doesn't know anything. But his guru says, Kanaka, how come you're still sitting here, not touching anything? And he says, Swami, Bhagavanta is there everywhere. I don't know any place where I'm not being watched, no matter what I do. So where can I go and hide? I can hide from people, but I cannot hide from him, So this universal intelligence is keeping track. We were talking about, just when we were sitting before we came on stage, Kiran and I were talking about some very interesting concepts that he has related to memory and implementation of things in that memory. And by the way, he is also expert in machine language too. So, we are talking about some real experts here, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is basically this, right? If only we understood, did our people actually for tens of thousands of years come up with a system that makes no sense? Really? For 10,000 years, 15,000 years they practiced that, and it's all stupid? How can that be? So my starting point was, it cannot be. The problem is I don't understand, that's all. I don't know and I don't understand. So you cannot blame the system for my own deficiencies. So when I started looking at this, many different aspects of karma, many different aspects. In a way, it's almost like the book is not, it's more like a collection of individual things. Like each chapter can stand by itself, right? It's not like one follows the other. It's all different topics, because I just wanted to give just a taste for people, whether you're talking about festivals, whether you're talking about daily puja that we do, what is the science behind it? I always give this example to my own shishas, is that suppose you have a laptop and suppose I give it to my grandson who's 11, actually now he knows something, but suppose you give it to a 3-4-year-old kid. So, and they keep typing something and they very seriously, they keep pressing something, but they don't know what they're doing, there's no sequence. Don't expect that to result in something actually happening. On the other hand, you give that same laptop to Pratosh and he can make things happen, right? So the thing is that knowledge and the intention is what drives the outcome, not the action, but the outcome. And when these three things, kaya, vacha, manasa, when these three things come together, actually something will happen. So I just looked at many of these different aspects. It's a sort of an introductory book for most people. My hope and target is young people, because many of them keep saying that, oh, this is not scientific and all that. That's very wrong, because I have 4 degrees in engineering. So, it is science. By the way, how do you define science? To start with, how do you define science? Every scientist, when he comes up with a hypothesis, it's a spark, right? Like he's sitting somewhere, he just sees something, because he's been struggling to find an answer to a problem, and suddenly he'll get like a flash, right? Now you get that flash. It's not, truth was never derived, it was seen. See, that's why we have Shruti, right? So truth was seen in their tapas. And then you have the difficult part of having the design of experiment to prove or disprove what you saw. It may be true, it may not be true. But you have to prove or disprove that, and for that you need the knowledge to make sure that you design things properly. A controlled experiment where the outcome will definitely tell you either that hypothesis that you saw is right or wrong. That's how science develops. So when you define science like that, I claim that the Vedic science, I keep on saying Vedic science, because for me it's a science. And it has been developed over a long, long time, and I think it's as older people, it's our obligation to not only learn about that, but to actually pass it on to the next generation. And I hope that in a very small way, what in Kannada we say, Adilu Seve, it's a very small thing, it's nothing big, I'm no great expert, I'm a very ordinary person, but whatever little I have learned, applied, it's all from Anubhava. Whatever little I have done, I hope that young people will at least look at it with an open mind and hopefully get something good out of it. So thank you for listening. It's always dangerous to make professors stand in front of a mic, because they don't know when to stop. But so let me stop there, and Shyam, take over.
So we'd like to thank Professor Mukund for his enlightening words, and while he keeps saying he's an ordinary person, I can tell you he's not. So that's been my experience, which no one can deny. He's definitely not ordinary. He's an extraordinary person and extraordinary guru. So I'd request Professor Mukund, Shri Kiran Kumar, Dr. Pratosh, if you could kindly inaugurate the book. So the book is now officially available. Just a little anecdote, we had gone to the Srinivasa temple today morning to offer the book, and Professor Mukund always offers it first to God before bringing it out. And there was one young lady who was very keen to get hold of the book, and he had to tell her, no, wait till today evening, you will get it. So the word karma, she got just so fascinated about that, just seeing the title in the book. So I'm sure all of you will be equally fascinated reading the book and even experiencing it. So now I would request in that order Dr. Pratosh to come and say a few words about your experience with the book and this topic. So please, I would like to invite Dr. Pratosh to the stage.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Mudra Pustaka Shankaksha Vidyotita Karambuja Hridyavesha Hayagriva Madhyana Vishayo Bhava Srimadananda Tirtharya Padapankaja Renavaha Pavitrayantu Mam Nityam Papa Patana Panditaha Sakalavachana Cheto Devata Bharati Sa Mama Vachasi Nidhattam Sannidhim Manasecha. Namaskara to all of you, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. So when he invited me, I was just wondering, maybe he's doing a mistake, right? So it's amidst elders and learned, accomplished people like Professor Mukund and Shri Kiran Kumar. I don't know how do I actually belong in this fora, but yeah. But I was just thinking. So I'm by profession an academic. So from one professor leaving the mic to the other coming, right? So when we form committees to take decisions, academic decisions in universities, so we would always have one student representative sitting in that committee, just to ensure that, okay, we also include students. They are mostly not taken seriously, but sometimes, they would say things that are useful, right? I am that student here. So there are committee of learned people, and you have one guy, okay, so that there is also a student, and so if I may say things, that may be useful, so let's see how it goes, okay. Right, so he was saying that we first met in Mysore, so he was giving a talk and I was there. So I was this kind of a person who actually underwent a good 2 decades of the Karkasha Tarka training, as they say, right? Lot of books, formally trained and all that. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, right, there is a story about this small boy called Shvetaketu that comes to his father. Anuchanamani stabda eyaya, right? Full of, studied a lot and came back and said that, oh, I've learned a lot of things. And his father asked questions like, okay, tell me something that when known is equivalent to knowing everything else. And this guy says, stunned by his question, his father's question, and say, my teacher has not taught me anything of that sort, right? So first 25 years of life, my life was like that. So 25, 30 years of my life, a lot of teachings, a lot of books after books. As they say, parishkaras after parishkaras, derivations after derivations. It's very important, because if you have that kind of a foundation, right, every life experience can be actually mapped back to whatever has been in books. So when I met people like, especially him, so he was saying things that I had learned in books, right? So what's important is, I'm sure he has not studied those books formally. Right? So there's a story that comes in the life history of Shri Madhvacharya, who happens to be our Adi Guru. He says, when he was a student, he keeps quoting things that he has never studied. His teacher asked him, Atra janmani nayat pathitante jaitra bhati katham amunokte. So he says, you have not studied anything, because I am your teacher and I know that you have not studied this. How come you can reproduce everything and talk about these things? Purva janma suhiveda puredam. That's the answer that Shri Madhvacharya gave, is what is said in the history. Professor Mukund always quotes that. Yesterday we were talking and he said, I have not studied any of these books. And he doesn't stop there. He said, not in this birth. That's right. He keeps saying that. So I am standing here to just make a one-to-one mapping, as they say, bijective mapping in mathematical terms, between whatever he has written through his anubhavas, right, to whatever I have studied in the books. All that he has written here, right, are there in one or the other book, but this is a kind of amalgamation and consolidation of lot of deep ideas that are there in philosophical text that he has, of course, written in English language and added a lot of his own anubhavas. That I think is what I would like to do here. So he was mentioning, right, talking about the book, he was mentioning that the so-called material life and the so-called spiritual life are not very different, right? So he says it through his experiences. There's a saying for it. They say, there's a saying in one of these books where it is said that Yaeva Laukikaha Ta Eva Vaidikaha. Right? It is said in a very different context, where it is said that when words, etymological derivations of Sanskrit words are being discussed. So there is a question that the words, the etymological words, or the words that you see, are there any differences between the so-called words that occur in the Vedic text and the words that occur in the so-called Laukika text, which are non-Vedic text? To answer, the author says that Eva Vaidikaha Ta Eva Laukikaha. Dr. Manjunath was making a very nice Vedic chanting where he started with the Rigveda Sukta. The Agni Shabda that occurs in the first mantra of Rigveda is same as the Agni Shabda that we say. When I say Agni, it's the same Agni Shabda that occurs there as well, right? So, Eva Vaidikaha Ta Eva Laukikaha, right? So, I extend that to everything in life. So, Eva Vaidikaha Ta Eva Laukikaha, there is absolutely no difference between spirituality and materialism. They are one and the same. Especially in the Vedic and Indian tradition, there has never been a distinctive line between the so-called materialistic life and spiritual life. Right? So that's why there is a nice subhashita that says, Ahara nidra bhaya maithunancha samanyametat pashubhir naranam dharmo hi tesham adhiko visheshaha dharmena hina pashubhis samanaha. Right? So if you, what it actually says is, to eat, to sleep, to procreate, right, and to be fearful of things is common between human beings and all the animals. If there is something that distinguishes human beings, make them human beings, is the dharma. Without dharma, they are all human beings are equivalent to animals. So what is the intent of this? If you look at the intent of this, I keep saying this, there's a fundamental difference, and I keep asking this question to a lot of my students as well, that we keep talking of the Indianness, the Bharatiyata and the Western ideas versus the Indian idea. So what is that one key and extraordinarily significant difference between the Western way of thinking and approaching life and the Bharatiya way of approaching life? There are multiple things. A lot of people give me a lot of explanations, but one thing that I have found out is that in the Bharatiya way of looking at things, be it whatever school of Vedanta it is, the fundamental idea of existence is that the entire nature of existence is cyclic. So we don't ascribe to the idea that whatever time instant that we call as birth and whatever time instant that we call as death, right, are the beginnings and endings of life. They are just two epochal events. So life or the jiva exists and extends beyond these two epochal events called the life and the birth and death. Now, I think this is the idea of Janmantara, or the idea of the eternity of an individual as a soul, I think is the key fundamental differentiating factor that makes these ideas very different from the ideas, the Western ideas. So that's why if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, the very first advice that Krishna Bhagavan gives is, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipaha nacheva nabhavishyamaha sarve vayam atah param. So the very first advice that he gives is that he talks of the eternity or the sthayitva of a jiva, as soul, as an individual, because if that one idea or an aspect is imbibed, the entire framework of life is extremely changed. The outlook of life will be changed, because if you look at all human endeavors, so what do we do a lot of things, right? We come up with ideas, we do a lot of things as human beings. Why do we do things? We do things because we want our life to be better, right? Or we want to be happy. And our definitions and the tools for happiness is only confined between two epochal times. One is called the life and death, right? And we don't look before life and beyond death. Now, if somebody is going to tell me that, look, whatever you think as the birth is not the beginning, and whatever you think as the death is not the end, but you as an individual exist for eternity, then my outlook, the very outlook for my life, changes completely. Right? So as human beings, we are habituated to giving up temporary, or rather undergoing temporary pains for long-term benefits. Now, that's what we do, right? No kids actually like going to school and studying. But we have all been said that, okay, if you study till class 7, your life will be good. Class 7, they say you study till class 10, your life will be good. Then class 10, they say class 12, and it keeps going. So we are, as human beings, we are habituated to actually foregoing momentary happiness for long-term benefits. Now, if I say that the definition of long term is not 70 years, it's not 80 years, it's not 100 years, it's for eternity, then the entire outlook to life completely changes. So I think, I genuinely believe that this is the idea of Indianness or Bharatiyata, that this life as we know of is a very insignificant and a small epochal time in the entire canvas of eternity of time. Now, given this, the next question that comes up is, then what is the whole point of all this? So why do we have to exist? Right? So why do we have to do anything that we would do? Any human endeavor, why do we have to do anything that we do? So that's why all these Upanishads, etc., they say that the entire purpose of this existence is to ensure that you end up being yourself. you end up dissociating yourself with everything that is not you. So that's why if you look at it, the ultimate purushartha is called the moksha. The etymological meaning of the word moksha is to get rid of. So unlike the other religious thoughts, in the Indian tradition, the ultimate aim is not to acquire everything. It is to get rid of everything that you are not. That's why the word moksha. You're actually, you want to get rid of everything that you are not. In fact, even more fundamentally, all of us know that all of our efforts go towards making ourselves happy. That's the ultimate goal that we all have. And all these Vedika Siddhantas tell us that you are looking for happiness with things outside, but you by yourself is happy. So now all you have to do is just get rid of everything that you are not, so that what remains is happiness, which is all that you are seeking. Now, with these two ideas, that you exist for eternity and you yourself is happiness that you are seeking for, then the goal is very clear. So now the goal is to just get rid of everything that we are not, because ultimately we are happiness. If you subscribe, of course, these are hypotheses that the Veda Siddhantas make, and one has to carry their experiments with this hypothesis, right? But anyway, with these two as the backdrop, saying that the jiva as an individual lives on for eternity and you are yourself happiness, the goal becomes very evident that you will have to get rid of everything that you are not. Now, everything that you do in life has to be oriented in this direction. Right? Everything that we do, starting from breathing, the sheer existence, and whatever profession that we do, in this sense that I say that everything that is Laukika is also Vedika, because there is nothing called non-spiritual in life, because the entire goal is towards getting rid of everything that you are not, right? And everything that you do has to be related to that. Now with this, the very Vedas that that talk about all these ideas also give you a path to achieving that. They say that if you look at the Ishavasya Upanishad, it says that Kurvan neveha karmani diji vishe chatam samaha, right? You have to keep participating in worldly activities. You have to keep doing things that you are supposed to, you have signed up doing, but with an adjective. My Guruji always tells me that God does not look at verbs, He looks at adverbs. So it means that it doesn't matter what you do, what matters is how you do it. See, verb is doing, right? Adverb is how you do it. Rama ran fast, right? Running is not important, running fast is important. So my Guruji keeps saying that God does not look at verbs. That's why you have stories of people who are butchers by profession but were enlightened souls. I am talking about the Dharma Vyada. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is how you do. That's the same idea that has come in Bhagavad Gita also, where it is said that Yajñarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Here is the idea. Now the ultimatum is to get rid of everything that you are not. What are you attached with? So every individual, all of us, are very deeply attached with this thing called Prakriti, right? Earth, nature, right? So now this Prakriti is something that is bothering us. We have to get ward of Prakriti. We have to get rid of all Prakriti. But everything that we do here is Prakrita, because every association that we have in this body, starting with our own body, is Prakrita. So now how do you get rid of things that you are so deeply attached with is the question. So the answer is that, again, the same Ishavasya Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita, Yajñarthad anyatra karmanaha lokoyam karma bandhanaha. It is said that Prakriti is of that nature, when nature has this nature, that the more you get associated with it, the more it binds you. Right? The more you go closer, the more it nasti agritah kritena. So the more you go closer, the more it binds you. So now these things looks contradictory. Now you are asking me to keep doing stuff, which is the karma yoga. You are also telling me not to get indulged in Prakriti. How are these possible? Right? The Veda itself says that there is a way out, which is Yajñarthad anyatra karmanaha lokoyam karma bandhanaha, which means that you have to do everything that you are doing with the awareness that you are doing a yajna. Yajna arthad anyatra karmanaha lokoyam karma bandhanaha. Right? The moment you identify the fact that whatever you are doing is a yajna, then Prakriti is very scared of yajna, so it will just go away. If you do everything that you are doing with the identification, or rather the awareness that you are actually conducting a yajna. So that's why if you look at Upanishads, it is prescribed how to eat, it is prescribed how to sleep, it is prescribed how to walk, how to wear, how to everything. Why? Because the entire idea is that you will have everything that you do, right, has to be done with an awareness that you are conducting a yajna. Okay, so I was reading one of the Zen stories. It is said that there was a Zen master. Before becoming a Zen master, he was doing laundry. Right? Now he got realized, enlightened. After that, he continued doing laundry, but with realization. So that's the difference. So what you do as an individual doesn't change. You keep doing what you are doing, but the kind of awareness that you have, right, the kind of backdrop that you do, everything that you do completely changes, because everything becomes a yajna. Now this book is a great step towards understanding how to look at everything from the backdrop of a yajna. See, why should eating become a yajna? Right? So by yajna we always think of, there is a fire, you offer something to that. No, Professor says very nicely that everything that you do, right, from eating to worshipping to celebrating a festival, everything is a yajna. So only if you do do things with such an awareness that you will not get attached with the Prakriti that is binding you, that is stopping you from being yourself. Right? So in fact, it is said that Nadaivam kinchidishyate. It is one other Shastric saying that there is nothing in this universe that is not Daiva. Or rather, there is nothing in this universe that does not have a control or an abhimana with a Daiva. So that's why he actually in this book, he said you should not ask Professor to speak, right? So he only gave me 20 minutes and I'm running out of time. I'll just take 5 more minutes because I read this book twice, right? First when you shared it with me, and yesterday once more because I had to juggle my memory once. It's a great book. I wanted to quote a lot of things here. So for instance, he talks about the yajna connection, right, with everything that we use on a daily basis. So as he was saying, you take the kumkum or the haladi that we use. There is a yajna connection to it. Right? And you take ghee that you use. There is a fantastic yajna connection to it. And I should tell you that in these books, in this book, it's not only that he has, I initially said that whatever he has written in this book has one or the other connection with the original text. But I should also say that there are a lot of things that are not there in the text in this book. So that has come with his intuitive ideas. Brilliant ideas, right? I should give you one example where he says, this entire process of starting from the milk and going up to ghee and using that ghee as the offering to yajna, he connects everything, the entire process with something that is going inside. In fact, because he comes in the the parampara and he has blessings of Shri Madhvacharya, he has imbibed that skill from him. In fact, I should tell you that it was Shri Madhvacharya that actually talked about every Vedic mantra having 3 levels of interpretations. He says, Bhutam Bhutabhimani cha taddeho antarniyamakaha. In fact, he says that every Veda mantra that you see has 3 meanings. Right? So one meaning is the meaning that everybody knows, which is that when there is an Agni mantra that talks about the Agni Devata. And also there is that Antaryami, which is the ultimate Devata that it talks about. And the third meaning is the Adhyatma meaning. That, if some of you know, one of the recent philosophers by name Shri Aurobindo, right, also subscribed to this idea that the entire Vedic text is cryptic, right? every sentence there and every idea that has been said has a correlation with an adhyatmic idea or a spiritual idea. So that was this idea was actually first proposed by Sri Madhvacharya, right? And he demonstrates by commenting on first 40 suktas of Rigveda how every single mantra can be associated with a spiritual process. And yeah, he has taken a similar approach where, as I said, everything, you can take Ganesha Chaturthi, right, which is a household festival that is celebrated in all Hindu households. He says, everything that you do during that has a spiritual meaning. That is the way to do it, because as I said, the very act of me speaking here and you people listening, and tomorrow morning I go and teach in my class, everything has to be done at the backdrop of it being a yajna. Right? If not, there's no respite from this entire karma chakra that you do something, right? So if you look at Bhagavad Gita, right, the Krishna very nicely says that buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite. So now one has to get rid of both the good deeds and bad deeds. Ubhe sukrita dushkrite. So it's not, everybody says that okay, you should not be doing papa karma. Even the punya karmas, right, that one does binds oneself. Punya and papa are seen at the exact equal footing, because any karma, be it punya or papa, not done with the right mindset, which is the yajna mindset that Professor talks about in this book, binds oneself. It is very nicely said that okay, you do a lot of punya, what will happen? That you get to spend a lot of good time in Swarga, which is also undesirable. Exactly. When if you look at the spiritual text, Swarga is undesirable. That's exactly what is said in Bhagavad Gita, that one should not look for Swarga. Because if you look at the Kathopanishad, right, this small kid, Nachiketa says, when the Yamaraj leaves him with millions of years of life, he says that even if I end up living million years, it's a very small number in front of infinity. All of us who have studied math know that anything that comes below infinity, right, or rather anything that infinity comes below will go to zero, right? Any big number, however big it is, that divided by infinity will give you zero. So it doesn't matter how long we are going to stay in Swarga, api sarvam jeevitam alpam eva. It's equivalent to not having something. So now, every karma, be it good or bad, leads you to this bondage of karma, right, which is, the bondage of the cycle of life and death, which would prevent oneself by being themselves, which is the ultimate purushartha, which is called the moksha. So now the only respite is to ensure that every indulgence that we have with Prakriti ends up becoming a yajna. Yajna arthad anyatra karmanaha lokoyam karma bandhana. Only in those karmas that is not yajna that everybody becomes bounded. So now how do you convert every single household thing that you do, right, like eating, into a yajna? If you are curious about getting an answer to that question, do read this book. Right? So that's exactly what is there in this book. That not only that he links everything mundane activities like eating, etc. as yajna, he also talks about processes like life and death, right? And things like procreation and having a family, progeny. How should you approach life from the dimension of yajna so that you don't get bounded with this shackles of karma? That's exactly what the subject matter of this book is as per the students' understanding, right? So different people might get different understanding, but this is what I got from studying this book, right? And it's an amazing book to study. It just took me 1 hour to read it. It's so engaging that when you start it, you don't feel like stopping reading that book, right? So you can just read it in a couple of hours if you are a voracious reader. It's a great book to read, and again, thanks a lot for the opportunity. And yeah, again, I'm serious when I say that it's surreal to be actually sitting alongside people like Shri Kiran, Kumar. As students, we would always listen to him when he used to come. I did my PhD in ISC. He has given a lot of lectures in ISC when I was a student. We would always look up to people like him from a far off distance and think like, okay, one needs to live like that, right? Contributing to the nation, and we were actually inspired by people like him. And here comes a day where I get to sit with him. Really an honor. Thanks to Professor Mukund. To see, one thing is, if you review a book, you are forced to read a book. Right? It will not be justified if you talk about a book without reading it. Right? So that way I should thank him for giving me an opportunity to read this book and to correct my thoughts and present it before you, and thanks a lot. And I wish that this book gives you as much pleasure as to all of you that it gave me. So with that I'll stop here. Thank you.
So we would like to thank Dr. Pratosh. So beautifully he connected everything in the book being a yagna and how beautifully we can apply it in day-to-day life. And it was actually a very nice speech where he also showed his humility and sincerity in reading the book twice, making sure that he left us with some impressions of the book, which will make all of you, I guess, all of us very eager to go and start reading the book. So with that, another inspiring person he spoke about, Shri A.S. Kiran Kumar. I would request, sir, I would request you to come and say a few words about the book. Please.
Good evening to all of you. Mukund, like I said, we were together between 68 to 71 in a place very close here, National College. And after that, there was a long gap. Then again, we have connected. And one of the things, what probably I would look at the whole thing in a very different perspective, because I've grown up as a technologist trying to develop things, and then probably you have also seen what ISRO has done. We have reached moon, so we are exploring. While exploring the outer world beyond Earth, the exploration takes you to many different dimensions. While you are exploring the external world, a lot of things happen. What is it that you are having? Internal exploration. So it's basically awareness of your own self. And nowadays I'm doing a lot of, actually you can say thinking, because I'm expected to interact with a lot of children from very young age, try to inspire them into science, technology area, etc. So one of the things I'm trying to do is, we were just talking about it also with Mukund. See, if you look at today, actually by 2040, we are supposed to land Indian on moon. So that is one of the targets we are having. So similarly, if you have to put somebody in Mars or any other planetary body, one of the things you would require is, you need to know about the environment there. So before sending human beings, obviously if you have to learn about that, you have to build some robots, send them there, learn about the environment there, and try to find out how we can make a human being survive or capable of dealing with that. So when you look at a robot, what we realize is a robot is nothing but a control system. It has a set of actuators, some sensing elements. We have written a lot of instructions in that robot. Using the controller, picks the instructions from a memory and performs the functions what we have designed it. That means unless there is an instruction available, the controller cannot do a function which the robot has to do. If you want to do it to do more and more functions, you have to write more instructions and store them. You require bigger memory. So that is one set of things. Then if you have more actuators, more memory, you need more power. You have to build more and more capabilities into that. But then we also realize many times what we have designed and put there, it's all limited by our designs. If the robot encounters a situation which is beyond what we have thought of, it is not going to survive there. So what we normally do is make it communicate with us. We have a control center. So the robot will send information to us telling, this is my problem. So now, unless you find a solution, send the instruction back to the robot, it will not be able to survive that condition. If the duration of that is so long that it gets destroyed, we have to do the whole thing all over again. So now we have to improve the designs. So in this process, we also build many features into the design. One of the things we call as fail-safe design. That means, suppose for example, you have a robotic arm which is supposed to lift an object of 5 kilograms. The robot doesn't know what it is lifting. It may be 10 or 20. So when it tries to lift, it may crash its arm, break it. So we don't want such a thing to happen. What we start doing, we want to make it realize that what it is doing is beyond its current capability. So if it is beyond its current capability, it should refrain from doing that. So now we talk of fail-safe designs. So that means we write another set of instructions somewhere, put it in the system, and using that, it learns about its own limitations and doesn't go beyond that. So we have another memory which is put in the robot. One is for all its external actuators to function, another to sustain that robot under adverse condition, learning about it. So one of the things I try to do when we meet children, etc. See, today when we want to tell our next generation, how can we engage them? We can engage them when we can make them look at things which they are comfortable with. If we start talking about all kinds of things, they are not even interested many times. But if you start talking about robot, artificial intelligence, programming, coding, then they start attaching some importance to what you are telling. So then I ask them a question. Okay, here is a robot which has a controller, 2 types of memory, actuators and sensors. Can you map this to yourself as an individual? Are you performing a similar thing as a robot? You can easily see everybody appreciates the 5 sensory organs, Gnanendriyas, what you have. They easily identify. Yes, we have these 5 sensory organs using which we get inputs. But then you ask them, what are the karmendriyas using which you are doing all your external function? Majority of the people have difficulty in identifying what are the karmendriyas using which we do our external activities. There also we have 5 karmendriyas. In fact, this book has so many things which I'll come back to. So now in this particular case, what we are trying to tell, when you map, there is an actuator, there is a sensory organs, and then a controller. It's not very difficult to visualize that there is something within us which enables us to do all that. A child, when it grows, for example, in Karnataka, child will learn Kannada. If you see what is happening, child is trying to mimic the sound it hears, generate instructions for its vocal system, and generate those instructions. So it records all those instructions in one memory and performs that. So similarly, everything a child learns, we can say it is storing in one memory, and using that it is doing all its external actuators. While in the robot we said it had something for sustaining itself. Can we ask that question, what is it that we have where that such a sustaining thing, instructions are there for controller? Probably if you put a little bit of effort, you will easily realize that the birth process of every life form probably brings with it a set of instructions which is accessible to that controller, and using that it sustains. Like we were telling, how to keep limiting yourself beyond your capability. Or for example, in a robot, if you are trying to make a friction joint become smooth, you would have put a lubricant somewhere and said, okay, put this lubricant and do. Similar things, human beings also, can we say there are a lot of that internal organs which are present. All these are actually controlled by the controller through the memory it has got from the birth process, and using that it is passing the instructions. So just as a thought process, I'll quickly move on because I want to link what is put here to that. So now you have a human system or any life system, controller, 2 types of memory, actuators and sensors. Now I come to a very different aspect of life. We have all seen drama. Suppose I ask, what is a drama? I'll say, there is a director, there is a story. Director wants to convey something to the audience. He does it through actors and stage. Similarly, if you take a cinema, very similar, except that the audience experience becomes so much more dynamic. It is very effective. You can give a very good experience to the audience. But otherwise, same. Director, story, and he wants to convey something to the audience. He does it through a set of system. Then we come to a video game. We are all, I'm sure every one of us would have played a video game in some way. What is happening in a video game? You are sitting in front of a console. There is a scene, you have a joystick or a steering wheel or keyboard, mouse. So based on the trigger you give, the audio and video seen by you on the screen keeps changing. Now you look at how is it happening. There is a computer, the person who wrote the video game, he has written some things, that is stored in the memory. The processor in the computer, depending on the trigger you give, picks that information, creates an audio and video and shows. If you are doing the racing car, you change the wheel to the right, the scene projects accordingly. That means there is a processor picking up the data from memory, converting it into an audio and video and showing you. Now I come to, we all have dreams. Can we map this to the dream we are getting? Okay, I'll try and say like this. We have a controller which has a mechanism when all our sensory inputs are dormant. It has a way of showing us an audio and video which is as real as a real life event. Now if you take the video game experience, how can we say that means the controller should have a story from which it can do the job of a processor, creating an audio and video and showing. So where is that storage? Where is that data? So you can say probably whatever life experience which this system has recorded in one memory, is it that from there it picks up information and projects it to us as a audio video? You may think yes, it is possible, but then you also see many times that whatever dream you see is not a mix and match of your life experience. Maybe it is possible some people experience beyond that. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for the time being. That means it is possible that you can be shown in your dream something beyond your own life experience. When Swami Vivekananda experienced with Paramahamsa or like that what is shown to in the dream can be created by a different process, but within us there is a mechanism which can show us an audio and video, is probably easy to comprehend. Then we also talked about a memory from the birth process. Now if you look at that, is also accessible to the controller, because controller is taking care of us 24/7 all the time using that instruction. So what it knows, the decoding process, everything. So what is stored in that we may not know, but the controller which is running us knows. So that is one part. Now if you take this and bring in the experience of a robotic system, what is the limit to the information content which the controller can show to us or make us visualize? You can see what is possibly recorded in your memory coming from the birth process. Obviously it came from an egg and sperm from the parent body, and whatever information that was recorded by that parent body at the time of releasing maybe is the limit to the information content, and that is what is there. So now you keep going backwards, parents, etc. Probably you can go to the origin of life maybe. But then definitely your birth memory contains this information. It's a reasonable argument we can talk of today. But then what is it limiting? That means the controller has access only to this information chain. Outside the parents and outside rest of the universe, there is no information here. What we have got from our sensory organs and what we have learned is all that is present within us. But then today you see a mobile. What is happening in a mobile? In the same environment, this mobile is able to pick up specific information meant for you, decode it, and show you both as an audio and video. Outside the physical boundary of an object, it is possible to exchange information. Today you have seen, if you put something in cloud, somebody else can pick it up if you have passed on the password. So that means if we consider life forms as highly evolved gadgets, is it possible that life form also can have a mechanism which is outside these two memory, access to information which is present in the universe? Today it looks it is possible. But then all this, why I am telling, what human being has done so far, if you see, he has looked at nature, what has happened, and then tried to mimic what he has seen in nature and produce so many things. Today, if you try to find out whether science and technology has shown anything so far, the concept of which does not exist in nature, probably you will find it very difficult to find such a thing. But then now I'll come to the point what I wanted to really tell. That means if you see a human being, all these elements are there. There is a controller, there is a process of recording within you, then there is some memory which is available to you from your birth process. Now is it that yoga is a process by which an individual can learn a method of accessing information outside the physical body, as we are doing in a mobile? If that is a possibility, then you have to go through a rigorous process of training yourself to make such an access. Today, a mobile, we have built all that. There is an antenna, it receives signal, there is a low noise amplifier which processes, then there is a decoding, decommutating, and then doing all that. If all such a thing exists in us, how to make it active? This is where, according to me, what Professor Mukund has been doing and has been trying to do makes a huge difference. See, if today, if you want to build awareness to an individual, suppose somebody gives a gadget, a box, an electronic gadget as a present to somebody. He opens that box. The user's manual is not there in that. If you ask the question, what is the probability that you are able to make 100% effective use of that gadget using all its capabilities? By trial and error, something you would have found. But majority of its capabilities remain unknown. So is it the problem the human beings are facing, particularly today when the science and technology is growing at such a pace, and what past things are there we have lost track of? So it is here that, to me, this book in many ways addresses many of the questions of that user's manual, of trying to tell what is what life that existed in this land, how people lived in this land, how they brought reality to many of the things. But in the process of our own growth during thousands of years of external subjugation and so many things that have happened, we lost track of many of the things, and generation to generation gap became much more. But today, with the kind of thing that is happening in technology, it's not very difficult to comprehend that each life form has so much potential. But if the life form itself is not aware of what is there within that, then its ability to lead its life effectively remains very limited. And it is here I see that this book actually answers so many questions, which probably is like a user's manual of how to become aware of your own self and aware of the various things that are there, and how you can perform certain action, and how to find meaning in all these Vedic procedures or rituals, so-called rituals, etc. Because we have not been able to tell the next generation or even ourselves, for example. We also need to understand so many things which are there. So only when we try to make an effort of becoming aware of the capabilities that are there. Today, everything we can explain in this, today artificial intelligence, AI, ML, what is it? Is it not the asli intelligence of an individual? If you look at how things have happened, initially human being created machines to take care of his physical labor. He achieved such a proficiency. You have seen huge things can be constructed with machines. Then intellectual capability, if you take, starting with simple calculators, today we have gone beyond the limits of the silicon or the computing system. Now we have to go beyond classical, we have to go to quantum. But then quantum mechanics, is it not existing in nature? It's only our effort to comprehend. Even life forms are today using so many of these quantum things. That means human beings are only trying to mimic what is present in nature. And in that mimicking, today, different people have achieved different. When you take a specific area, when you wanted to see things far away, you started building telescope. When you wanted to see micro things, microscope, electron microscope, you name it. So like this, everything can go on. But then what I see great in this is, this book is actually trying to give us the kind of user's manual in its own way of telling us that whatever features we have, whatever capabilities that is present in us, how can we make use of it and go through our own life in a better manner. And I should really compliment him, not only for putting in this book, but also linking, because I've seen many of his talks also, where in electronics today, how, for example, you can explain through electronics an amplifier, how what happens in an amplifier is so similar to what happens in a nature. Many times we feel that we have put in a lot of effort, but results are not commensurate with our effort that we think. Then he gives an explanation there. Suppose in a transistor you have 3 terminals, and then between the 2 terminals you apply a voltage, current flows. But if you do not take care of in the gate what is happening, no amount of your increasing voltage will not change the output. You are on one plateau. Now what is happening on the gate is the universal intelligence you talks about. So in this manner, today what we need to tell not only ourselves and our next generation is, through the mechanism which they appreciate, through the tools and gadgets which they are comfortable with, if through that we are able to tell them what is life and how they can lead better life, I think we would be doing a great job. And I see this book is doing that, and I really compliment him for doing that, and wish him and wish all of us also a great success in understanding our own life. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for that enlightening speech. As our chief guest, he mapped it so beautifully between the artificial intelligence and the inner intelligence, and how this book can help us discover our inner intelligence. So we thank you, sir, for that enlightening speech. Now we come to vote of thanks. Before the vote of thanks, there's a question some people had about the book being available. Wanted to inform you that we do have the book available at a discount today. Professor Mukund's book will be available in leading bookstores and also online in Amazon. But today we are pleased to offer, there will be a special discount of at rupees 100 we will offer the book. It is just outside the hall, and our employees are having it there, so you can purchase it today at a special price of rupees 100. After today it will be available through the regular channels, including Amazon, Sapna Bookstore, and other outlets which we normally use. With that said, coming back to the vote of thanks, we want to thank Shri A.S. Kiran Kumar for gracing this occasion as our chief guest. As Dr. Pratosh also earlier talked about, matter and energy can coexist, and I think a very enlightening speech. So thank you, sir. And as a small token of our appreciation, Professor Mukund would like to, on behalf of Tara Prakashna, would like to present this. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Pratosh. We would like to thank him for his time and gracing this occasion. And on this occasion, Professor Mukund, on behalf of Tara Prakashna, would present Pratosh. Now like to thank Dr. Manjunath for his inspiring rendition of the Vedas. I think all of us were speechless during that time, and no words can ever do justice to it. We had another guest who unfortunately couldn't make it in time, but would like to thank him and for his efforts in reviewing the book and also helping us with our ongoing efforts. So he's a features editor, S.R. Ramakrishna Deccan Herald. So we would like to thank him as well. And last but not least, all of you, heartfelt thanks to you for making this occasion special, memorable, gracing it by your presence. And we look forward to further interacting with you in many such occasions. So thank you very much, all of you, for coming in.